All right, thanks for having me. Before we begin, who in the audience, who is like a startup? And who's doing 10 million or less in revenue? Who's doing more than 10 million in revenue? So the vast majority? Okay. One of the challenges as preparing for this, I wasn't sure who the audience would be, so we were trying to cover it to make sure it would work for like new e-commerce companies and also more established. All right, so here we're going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about how, first, artificial intelligence is transforming it. Second, we're going to talk about ways that we anticipate AI enhancing supply chain management, customer experiences, et cetera. And then fourth, we're going to talk about real-world examples that either I or my partners have worked on of how people have been leveraging AI currently in their business. So my background in AI is I run AI Utah. We are an organization that's designed to help connect AI leaders, business leaders, and technical leaders so that Utah can advance and be more on the forefront. All right, so section number one. So in AI, there are 6 main areas that we see of how it's currently being affected the most. I think first is personalization. For those of you who are like me who are 40 or older, when we first started seeing ads online as part of the e-commerce experience, they weren't very specific, they were very generic. But as we are going through the AI experience, we're getting more and more personalized recommendations, so much that when you show up on the site, that we're seeing much more dynamic content delivery. Next, enhanced customer service. This has probably been the biggest shakeup, I think, in the AI space. I think when we look at how AI is going to change or displace or shift jobs, it'll be largely, I think, in customer service and or the legal space. But I think what this means for all of us is we'll get a much better experience. Improved search. This is one of the areas that I think is also changing significantly that I'm excited about, where we can use natural language to better understand what the end user is looking for. The next 3 is dynamic pricing, where we can benchmark not only dynamically by other sales that might be happening on competitors' websites. We can do a better job with inventory management. This one will probably be a little bit further out than some of the others. And then fraud prevention. Okay, one of the things I want to talk of this presentation is I want to help you see through the fog. Because a lot of people have talked about AI. I think AI is a huge buzzword, but where are we currently at? And so the Gartner hype cycle is a pattern where we can look at to see when new technology comes out, where are we at, and where are we going? First of all, I want you guys to raise your hands. Actually, I thought the presentation would be right over me. Where do you think we're at on the personalization standpoint? Do you think we're still at the beginning? Are we at have we gone through the disillusion part? Raise your hand. Where do you think we're at for personalization? Do you guys want to raise your hands? Should I go this way? You think we're still in the disillusion space? Okay, where do you think we're at for enhanced customer service? Inflated expectations? Okay. Since I don't know if we were all liking this is kind of how I would look at it. I think for inventory management, I think we're still at the very, very early stages, primarily because there are so many disconnected parts in the supply chain that'll be an area that will be where we'll see AI improvements that'll take the longest. Next, as we go through the series, we're going to see enhanced customer service. I look at AI more like I think we should look at Excel and the accountants. You know, when Excel came out, or even when calculators came out, you know, in theory, it should have put accounting departments out of business. But what happened is there's now so much more that we can do, so much more personalization, so much more customization. And I think with customer support, we're going to see the same things. But I think we're still we're coming out of the dissolution, we're coming more into enlightenment, and the experiences are getting better and better. And then I think the other points, that's where you can see where we're currently at. I think fraud prevention is probably the furthest along, primarily because I think even back in the day of what made PayPal was they became much better at detecting fraud than a lot of the other online platforms. And since then, they've been leading the way, and that's also where the biggest risk versus reward ratio was. And I think the important thing to remember here is that with AI, I think a lot of people may feel like they're falling behind, or hey, I'm not using 10, 20 tools. But as I was surveying all the people we've worked with for this, most people aren't using more than ChatGPT or Midjourney. Do you guys feel the same or different? Or do you like, hey, I've got my AI tech stack just dialed in? Raise your hand if you're dialed in. Okay. Jacob's the head of AI at Pattern, so he is dialed in. But my guess is most of us don't know what to do, even if some of the companies we work with, they do about like $1 billion in sales or more, and most of them aren't touching AI. But I think it's at the point they should be. But just so you're aware, if you're probably at the spot where most other companies are. I know a lot of companies we work with want to be doing more with AI. They may be getting pushback from management, partly because it can require big changes. But just recognize it's just part of the cycle that we're all moving through together. And so I think as we talk about how AI is going to transition change, I think one, a lot of people are just getting distracted by the tools, and that a lot of these AI tools aren't actually AI like they claim to be. They're marketing buzzwords. I think one of the things, if you're looking to embrace an AI tool, my personal recommendation, and this isn't always, but as a general rule, like look at their actual dev team. You can go to LinkedIn. A really good AI team, I think, will have someone with extensive math experience, 4 years of like statistics or collegiate math. Not in all cases. You might see other PhDs on the team. If you don't see that, that may be one inclination that this isn't a true AI tool, and this is just a buzzword that they're using. So don't bet the farm on them if that's the case. Another thing I would recommend is appointing someone at your company to be the head of AI, to start looking at tools, researching, doing small tests to see what advances you get. And I think the other thing probably out of all of this is companies right now, you need to get better at cleaning up your data. And I think there's two ways of doing this. A lot of the companies we've worked with are on ERPs that are 20+ years old. And when AI, especially in supply chain management and whatnot, is here, if you don't clean up your data now, you're going to be losing to your competitors who have already done that. And that's generally, it takes about 2 to 3 years, I think, for most companies to either switch to a better ERP or to install something like Snowflake or Databricks, where you can combine all of your various data into one entity, and hiring a data engineer to come through, clean it up, tag it appropriately, so you can start interacting and making better decisions. And I think if we were to end my speech right now, that's one of the main areas I would focus on, is just cleaning up your data, especially where most of you, I think, are doing more than 10 million in revenue. I think once you're at the point of profitability is where I would start considering hiring a data engineer to come through and like start looking at the data and preparing the data, so when more and more tools go from being, AI tools go from being toys to something that you really need to have, that's also super important. I think the other thing as you're looking at AI tools, you need to look at the companies and say, if I'm making big bets on like an ERP or whatnot, does this company have enough money where they can invest, say, $10 million to $1 billion in AI over the next 5 years? And if you're choosing solutions that don't have that, you may also, I think, want to reconsider that. Any questions so far? I thought the camera person had a question. Okay, so now let's talk about how it's currently enhancing or will enhance. I think one of the next big things we will see more and more coming out of places like OpenAI is visual search and image recognition. Sorry, that's a big polysyllabic word, and it's a tongue twister. I think Amazon is probably the current best leader at this, where you can take a picture and say, show me something similar. But I think more and more e-commerce sites need to be having your ERP and your inventory connected to these different search tools so that you can be recommended. Because I think this is one of the next things that will happen. Let's say you're a plumbing company, and my dad and I grew up, I had to do all the sprinklers with my dad. You know, when I have kids, that kid's just going to take a picture of a fitting or a plumbing part and just say, I need another piece. They're not going to say, what words do I need to come up with to know what this is? And the camera will be able to measure it. It'll be able to look at the thickness of it. It'll say, hey, we need to take a different angle. And I think that's where a lot of searching is going with the intention for buying. I think the next thing we're also going to see is a lot more AI-specific content personalization. I think we're going to see a lot of this with our email campaigns and our ad campaigns, where AI is looking at the actual data. It will be proposing content or lead funnels you should be building or running or campaigns, and then it'll be executing them on a much more personal basis than we currently are now. Because I think most of the personalization is just, it's high level, or it's looking on your past buying behavior, where AI can look at your intent. A good example of this is look at the difference between Instagram and TikTok. That difference, from my view, is primarily because of AI, and that it had a much better algorithm to look at like what your actual interests are, not what your past behavior was. And so just like AI made TikToks, I think, superior to Instagram, we're going to see the same thing with content recommendations, and this is something of a trend that you should be looking at. I think we're going to also see a lot more AI negotiation, dynamic pricing, and bundling, just like how Amazon does it with your own stores. These are things we should also be considering as well for what else can we bundle or what can we recommend. And I think this is a big gap that's currently in the current e-commerce space. And then again, it's going to be looking for more emotion as it looks for what items to recommend based different from your past history was. And then the next part is it's going to be looking at conversational AI to complete much more complex tasks. So hopefully there's a supplement company I purchased from, and an example that I have is with the supplement, you typically want it to come on every 30 days, but a conversational AI, I think in the future, will say, hey, I'm going to be out of town, I need to shift my order. Or hey, I'm going on a trip, I need my next delivery to come a week early. And a conversational AI will get to the point where without talking to a human, I can automatically shift my subscription up or back. And those are things that are more complex tasks that will be coming, but you can't currently do or can't do well. And then I think another big opportunity that's going to come, and I think this is more in the 5 to 10 year phase, is just AI-powered warehousing and delivering. We're seeing it with like some robots with the really large vendors like Walmart, Amazon, and others, but I think it's going to be becoming much more accessible through your 3PLs and others. And then again, AI-powered voice and context awareness is going to be significantly better as a trend than where we're currently at. Okay, and then this last part is we're going to go through some real-world examples of how AI is currently changing the space. And so for this, I've pulled some experts. So first we have Devin here. Do you want to raise your hand? I love Devin. I've worked with her for about a year now. She's amazing. She's the director of e-commerce at Standard Plumbing. Matthew Holman, he's the subscription doc, subscription prescription. He has a podcast, a blog, and some of these others like Chris Knutson or Sid Tetro. Chris Knutson was the founding CMO of Purple. Sid Tetro, she ran Brandless. They did $1 billion. They did a bunch of private equity roll-ups of e-commerce brands. Jordan Burke, he ran e-commerce for ABB Optical. And Alex MacArthur, I don't know if you know the company Kizix. He ran that. And the first thing was, when I talked with a lot of these guys, I said, hey, what tools are you using? Generally, most people aren't doing that much in AI. I think a lot of the individuals were stumped. And we had to go through and say, let's actually talk about the process. I think first, if we're going to do a pattern to Jacob, one of the reasons I like Pattern is they have an entire AI team that can be making decisions for you. And I think the hard part for some of these smaller brands in competing is that if you're doing less than $1 million, even $10 million in revenue, hiring a really good data scientist for $250,000 to $350,000 or more a year is a really big hit to your bottom line. Where if you partner with someone like Pattern, they have all of this infrastructure built out so that you don't have to do the heavy lifting. They're doing that for you. And so I think Pattern is an amazing AI-driven tool that allows you to manage your marketplaces online from Amazon and others. Another one is I'm a big fan of Snowflakes or Databricks. And the big part here is if you're on a really old ERP and management's not going to let you shift, and you're worried that AI tools won't be able to integrate with these old tools, you can copy your databases and put all of your data into Snowflake. And Snowflake has an AI engine that allows you to come through and make better recommendations. But again, that process would probably take you about a year or so or two to bring in all of your data, to start tagging it, and you would need to hire a data scientist, which again, that's going to cost you, a full-time data scientist would be what, $250 to $350K, right, Jacob? It's going to be really expensive, but the gains are going to be worth it. But I think the thing you have to remember is if you don't do this, one of your competitors is going to do it. Or if you don't do this, the targets of the world are going to start coming more and more downstream. And if you don't, their pricing ability to underprice you is going to be easier and easier and easier. And that's why you have to make these investments now. Another tool, this is a local Utah company called Delicious AI, deliciousai.com. And I think they're really interesting because they do 2D and 3D image scanning to help you understand product placement to have higher turnover. And then they take that data and they communicate that data with the inventory packers and stockers, and also they help manage that through the supply chain. So if I look at another like Utah AI company that I'm pretty impressed by and one that's up and coming, it would be Delicious. Another one that we really like is Sienna. So Sienna focuses a lot on the customer support space and allowing you to either reduce the size of your customer support team or keep the same size of team and have much better personalization and customization. So there's a lot of companies out there that do customer support, but we really like what these guys are doing in integrating AI into the chat process in making better recommendations. And these guys, some of the things they're working on is having you handle those more advanced AI chat conversations. Hey, I need to adjust my subscription. Hey, can we delay this next shipment, things like that. Bestie AI is another tool that we've liked a lot. Bestie comes through and allows you to do a lot of surveys like a lot of other tools do, but then it helps you use AI to interpret the data and what it specifically means for your business to help you give actionable insights. Another one, Recharge. Has anyone used Recharge here? Okay. So Recharge and also the next one, they focus a lot on subscription management and helping businesses analyze what is causing churn or how to bring customers back. And ideally, you want that data before they leave you. Why is this person leaving? What's going to cause them to leave? And so it uses AI in the background to gather and collect all that information. Stay AI is another subscription management software which does the exact same thing. It grabs that information. It gives you the context of what decisions can I make to make sure I'm not losing customers. Particle is another local company that's AI-driven. They do a lot with benchmarking and finding opportunities, either gaps in your current product lineup and or pricing strategies that you can use to better fill out and make more money. And allows you to place bets or hypotheticals on, hey, if we make this decision or we roll out this product, what do we think effect it'll have on our business? And then ArcAds, I think this is one that I think is really interesting. The former CMO of Purple recommended this. They're using a lot for their AI video generation creation tools. So I think right now with the AI space, we're seeing a lot in Gen AI for content creation. And this is one where you can take that data or use AI to create AI actors for your brand. And then this is a startup that I think is extremely promising and it's showing good traction. But what they're using is AI to allow it to be like an artificial CFO for your business, where you can start asking it questions, and you don't have to wait for your CFO to come back and respond, but it's using that information to give you better financial data. And this one's more in beta. The rest are much further along. All right, so that's I think, my presentation. Let's go to Q&A. What tools are you guys currently using that you like? In the back.
It'll just do it for you, right? Where it seems like a lot of the more advanced, writing a whole whole class that'll do specific things. Doesn't really handle it, but for small tasks, it does a great job. It saves a lot of time.
Are you one of the coders at Pattern?
I am.
All right. Yeah, I like GitHub Copilot.
Yeah.
And that's something, one of the things I'd encourage if you have engineering teams or Shopify teams, I would encourage your engineers to start using like GitHub Copilot. Some may resist you. Also, from my perspective, we hire a bunch of engineers. I don't hire an engineer anymore if they can't come to the interview and tell me how they're using AI to write better products. Anywhere from my video editors to my software engineers, it's a no-go if they don't answer, I've used at least one or two tools in my process. What else? What other tools?
Beautiful.ai, it's like a deck builder.
Okay.
Tried it, but didn't really think it didn't do what I wanted it to.
What did it not do that you wanted it to?
It didn't, when you build a deck, it was like a go-to-market plan, for example. Go-to-market plan for a product. It just didn't really hit the highs of the product. It didn't really have clear financials. And so I felt like I found myself doing more work to build the deck.
Have you tried Anthropic? You may want to check out Anthropic. The one big gap in the current LLM space is like number calculations, things like that. And I feel like Google's further along in that phase compared to some of the other LLMs. Do you agree, Jacob?
Cool. We're using this product called Codebase AI, and it's kind of like it's a customer support chatbot, if you will. But what it allows you to do is use a custom database. So if you have some proprietary documentation that you don't really want in the public sphere, it has a knowledge center where you customize and add your own internal documents. And so, yes, customer service has been one aspect that we've been able to utilize with the tool, but it also helps us with employee onboarding, people understanding what their PTO is, and like other pricing structures that might be internal policy we don't want to really share, but is really friendly with integrating through different communication tools as well. So we've been able to do plugins for Discord or Slack, and so our team can have it at their fingertips whenever they need it. So if they're on the phone with a customer and maybe aren't 100% sure of the percentage of a cost or something, they can just ask the bot in Discord and they get an immediate response. So it's been about 80% correct, which I think is really good. And so we're trying to iterate on the personality and accuracy of that bot to make it more effective.
And that's Codebase AI, CODYAI.com?
That's right.
Okay.
Well, because there's so many tools and so many things being made, it's actually hard for me to pinpoint which one I like. So I go to, there's an AI for that, and there you can just type it in and search what you need to do, and there's going to pop up a tool that already helps you with that. So that's what I've been doing and trying to keep up with it.
Mm-hmm. What are you guys doing for your current supply chain management? Is anyone using AI there? Is the silent means no? Or yes?
No, but want to.
Want to? Yeah, I haven't seen good adoption there, but my guess is it's still further out. What are you guys doing for using AI outside of like content marketing and ideation? So outside of like ChatGPT and Midjourney? Anything? How many of you at your company have someone who's dedicated their role, or at least as part of their job function, to be testing out AI tools? Are you a Pattern? Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, so that would be another big takeaway that I would kind of focus on is right now recognize that currently we're still in the early stages. Most of it's, I think, the ChatGPT Midjourney examples. I think companies like Pattern have done a really good job in allowing you to leverage AI to manage multiple marketplaces and supply chain. I think for the rest of you that aren't there, I would be focusing much more on getting your ERP and data cleaned up. That way you can have when AI is much more usable, and we've gone through the Gartner hype cycle through the dissolution phase, then you can start onboarding much quicker. So anyways, I think that was my presentation. Yes?
What are some uses of AI in our personal lives?
Personal lives? I mean, for me, who's using ChatGPT to review contracts? So probably one of my favorite things to do right now, and the biggest value outside of just being like a writing assistant, is I'll upload a contract to ChatGPT, and I'll ask it to say, hey, what are the ambiguous pieces? And I have a set of questions like, what are the points that may cause confusion? Like, that's probably one of my favorite takeaways. It'll come back and say, here are parts of the contract that are vague. What other creative uses are you guys using ChatGPT for?
Meeting summaries, meeting follow-ups, calendar management. Summarizing financial reports.
I've seen a lot of people, they'll create a workflow or an automation tool with Zapier where it'll take the recording from Zoom and it'll automatically transcribe it and create action items. So that's probably one of the biggest, another big one I've heard of. Any others? All right, well, thank you for your time. And then I'll have my contact information. If you want a copy of the slides, just send me an email. And it's nice to meet all of you. Thanks, guys.